And welcome back to Capitol Tonight one final time. Well, the president's visit today put a bow on what was a busy political week, including reports that the governor might actually call for layoffs of more than 10,000 state workers. Here to talk about all of this and more are the reporters of the Roundtable, some of Albany's finest political reporters who join us each week. Today we are joined by Nick Reisman, a political reporter for the Gannett News Service, and next to him is Michael Amon, a political reporter for Newsday. He is making his Roundtable debut. And across the table from them is our very own Caitlin Ross, who needs no introduction, but I did it anyway.
Why, hello.
Hi, welcome. I actually got your name right, so that's always positive. And welcome to you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll be easy on you. I want to start with the president's visit. You guys were both in the room. You and I read the speech. So just talk to us, Caitlin, about the reaction was positive, but obviously it was mostly Democrats.
Yeah, certainly. It was almost like a pep talk. He got up there and he was really excited. He was rallying the troops. There was a lot of energy in the room. And one thing I kind of thought was interesting was the entire crowd stood for the entire time. People were on their feet for the entire speech. They were hooting and hollering, cheering, really standing ovations. Everybody was taking pictures. So there was a lot of energy in the room. But like you said, mostly Democrats.
Right.
I did speak with Congressman Gibson right after the speech,
Oh.
and he was really positive too. He said, look, putting America back to work isn't a Democrat issue, it's not a Republican issue. This should be an issue that our nation faces together.
And he was on Air Force One, right?
Right.
He rode up with the president.
Yep.
He actually, you guys reported that he wanted to talk about nuclear energy?
Yeah, that's
Congressman
right.
Gibson?
He, one thing that he is pushing for is having a nuclear plant in the 20th Congressional District, which is what he represents.
Right.
And, if you made that statement, say, 20, 25 years ago after 3 Mile Island, you probably wouldn't win re-election for Congress. But now, I think a lot of people's views are evolving on nuclear energy. It's seen as cheap, efficient, and more or less safe.
Well,
so that's something that he has
after
been pushing for.
BP, you would expect,
Indeed,
right?
yeah.
Now, you read the speech, Michael, so do you think that he did what he had to do? He's obviously turning the page. It's a new start for his economic policy. How's it going to play in the elections? I read it as all about 2012.
That's right. I think he's really trying to talk about getting the economy started again. That's why he goes to GE, comes to New York where GE started, and he's
Right.
talking about green jobs. It's something he talked about in the election, hasn't talked about that much as the conversation changed to healthcare, to other things, and he's trying to really move it back into, I'm going to create jobs, we're going to turn this around.
Do you think, though, but is it going to work? Because if it doesn't, once you set the bar like that, you say, I am going to create jobs and turn this around, then people have something to measure you against, and if you don't, they have something to attack you with, don't
Yeah,
they?
that's really true. I mean, the stimulus package, when they pushed that through Congress in Obama's first year, that was supposed to, I think, create jobs.
Right.
And really what it ultimately did was that it allowed local governments and state governments to close a lot of budget deficits that they were about to receive. So, yeah, you could argue it saved jobs because it prevented a lot of these governments from laying people off. But, this year, when there's no more economic stimulus package, you're seeing a lot of layoffs like we saw this week with Governor Cuomo.
Well, he did address that in the speech somewhat. He said, look, the last 2 years we were trying to dig ourselves out from this hole that we got into, and now the next 2 years, maybe like you referenced leading up to the election, we're trying to get the economy back on track.
Right.
So he was talking about, maybe there was a problem in the past, but he's looking toward the future.
It was also the greatest place to roll out Jeffrey Immelt, of course. I mean, this is GE. I thought there was two moments. First of all, it was like a bromance between the two of them.
It was a bit of a bromance.
Sorry. It was like all this happiness, and he laid it on really thick, and people were obviously really pleased with him, etc. But Jeffrey Immelt, now, did you guys catch this in the speech? Because it was like he glossed right over it. When he introduced the president, he said 60% of what GE does is actually outside the country. Mm-hmm. And despite that, I'm really into building the economy in New York.
Yeah, he did say that. Yeah.
And I don't know. I think that maybe you could have a problem with the labor unions when you talk about trade like that.
And, when you ask some people in, say, Washington County, Hudson Falls, and Fort Edward, where there were GE plants and have now been dramatically scaled back.
Right.
So, some of the people who have worked for GE in the past, who may have been laid off by GE in the past, are looking at, Jeffrey Immelt being in charge of this Economic Development Jobs Creation Council and are thinking to themselves, maybe that's not the best idea.
Yeah, there's also this dichotomy, and now moving to New York. Obviously, Andrew Cuomo was there, and we have all been reporting this week about the layoffs, all of us, the potential layoffs, we should say, because the governor isn't saying whether or not there will be layoffs.
Right.
For sure, he says there will be pain, which doesn't sound good. But, this dichotomy between the private sector and the public sector, when you say jobs, 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 it's all about jobs, and then you say 10,000 to 15,000 people are going to lose their jobs, isn't that doesn't that not quite fit together somehow?
That's right. And it was an interesting moment for Cuomo there today because he didn't really get out there that much afterward. I don't think he took any questions. He didn't do an avail. Nope. It really wasn't about Cuomo, even though Senator Schumer and Senator Gillibrand both did questions, I think spoke at length.
They did a lot of different questions.
Exactly. Yeah. And so for Cuomo, this wasn't necessarily the best event for him. He needed, because he's talking about pain, well, someone's talking about layoffs in the administration. It's not him. He wouldn't go there the other day, and his staff isn't necessarily going there yet. So, but there is talk about a lot of pain. So for Cuomo today, yes, he's trying to get the economy back. The economy turning around would be great for Cuomo, but that's not really his thing. He's trying to sell people that pain is coming down the road, and look out for it.
But the turnaround, actually, between the Hudson Valley event, and I can't remember, were you at that event?
But
okay, I was actually inside that event. This was before you were up in the Capital Region. Were you with us yet?
No, I wasn't there.
Okay, so the Hudson Valley event was at the time when David Patterson and Andrew Cuomo were a little bit at odds, and the possibility was that they might primary each other, and the White House wanted to get rid of David Patterson, and there was this big smile from the president in Andrew Cuomo's direction. I thought, he made a joke. He made the obligatory football joke with the governor, but other than that, yeah, there wasn't a big day for Andrew Cuomo at all, actually. He wasn't...
Well, when he first walked in, somebody from GE yelled, "We're counting on you." And Andrew Cuomo said something like, you can count on me. And it got a big round of applause from people who were sitting in the audience. And then when the president first came up, he shouted Andrew Cuomo out, and that got another round of applause. But then after that, we were waiting to see if we were going to hear from the governor, and we kept getting this back and forth, like, yes, he's going to stop, no, he's not going to stop. Okay, maybe he's going to stop, no, he's going to talk in the Capitol. Then at the Capitol, we had a crew at the Capitol. He never came out to talk, so we never ended up hearing from him.
That's quintessential Cuomo, though.
I'm going to kick myself for saying this, and
this
is political consultant speak. Bad optics, though, for Cuomo to come out, though, and try to upstage the president, or at least try to make the news about him, or make any sort of news at all.
Good point.
So, I mean, yeah, he probably doesn't want to talk about the reported, layoff proposal, which was probably a trial balloon put out by his administration this week. He doesn't want to make any news that'll push Obama off the front page or out of the leads of anything. So it's probably best to, just lay low and wave to people and, shake Obama's hand when he comes off Air Force One, and that's about it.
Yeah, it's also what I thought was remarkable is the same tone that we're hearing from the president and from the governor. In other words, I think that this pragmatic approach, when you talk, I think you said that jobs is actually not a Democrat issue, not a Republican issue. This idea that we're going to try and bring the economy back by tapping a guy like Jeff Immelt, who is a Republican, by reaching across the aisle during the not-so-lame-duck session to create pragmatic deals with the Republicans, because they are now going to be in charge of the House. Now they are in charge of the House. You see Andrew Cuomo do the same thing, and it's just interesting that they have the same message, if you will, and of course they also have, in Andrew Cuomo's case, Mike Long, which I just thought was bizarre. I don't know. Am I the only one?
Well, what's really interesting about that is how Andrew Cuomo's best friends in Albany these days seem to be the Senate Republicans. Have you noticed that?
Right?
I mean, look who introduced Andrew Cuomo at the Marist College event in Poughkeepsie. Steve Saland.
Right.
And he praised Andrew Cuomo. He said he's been, a great governor so far.
And he said Kathy Young.
That's right.
That's right. In Watertown.
Yeah, and I mean. Jamestown. And I think he's been going around to a lot of these Republican districts. Notice the 3 events that he went to, Watertown, Jamestown, Poughkeepsie, were all Republican Senate districts that he's attending. And meanwhile, he had that kind of interesting back and forth with some Assembly Democrats the other night at the mansion.
See, that's the thing. So, Michael, you just got here, and I think actually that's a good thing because you can see things, well, through eyes that we assume that everything's going to be, after being here for a while, you get cynical. I don't know that you've been here long enough to be cynical.
I'm not cynical, no.
But you go, well, it's always going to be like this. Shelley Silver's going to do this, and then the Senate Democrats are going to do that. But when you look at it from the outside, without having seen it play out over and over again, does it look like to you that he's freezing out the Assembly Democrats?
Well, it does seem like there's some kind of alliance, that he's creating with the Senate Republicans. I don't know if you noticed at the Senate Republicans had a press conference earlier this week in which they announced some jobs packets, a jobs creation package, and they said, we have a partner in this governor.
Right.
And if there's a government shutdown, it's not going to be us. That's the Speaker's choice. And so I think they're trying to, it seems like there's some kind of dance that maybe there's an opportunity now after, Sheldon Silver, who's had a pretty good run for the past few years, they're maybe trying to put him in a little bit of corner, put the blame on him. It's going to be Cuomo and the Senate Republicans, and even Mike Long, and the Conservatives, putting their message out there in favor of Cuomo to try to get Silver to make some concessions this year because they're going to need it.
Yeah, what's also interesting is that Assemblyman Lantzman, who was one of the Democrats who had that little bit of a, he liked to say, I can't remember exactly how he put it, but in a very sort of lawyerly way. He was like, it wasn't a fight, it was a good, healthy discussion. Right, okay. But he actually suggested that Andrew Cuomo is not being true to his Democratic roots, which is like fighting words, really, if you think about it. And I think the Andrew Cuomo, the governor, has been very careful to say things like, well, but I'm very much for gay marriage, but I'm also going to cut jobs. And then labor is not going to be happy with me, but I'm very much for protecting abortion rights. I mean, he's trying to have it both ways a little bit, and I don't know if the Assembly Democrats are going to let him do it in the end.
Yeah, Rory Lantzman's also one of those guys who's very much in favor of keeping the so-called millionaires tax, that surcharge on high-income earners, in place. And, he might be one of those guys, I think he did a whole media blitz, in fact, right after that, saying, we need to keep this. And he's one of those guys who's probably going to keep pushing Cuomo from his left to keep on that. Whether or not it's going to be effective, that remains to be seen. The Senate Democrats are pretty much divided with that independent conference of theirs, so it's really going to be up to guys like Lantzman, I guess, to kind of push that agenda or that part of the agenda.
It's hard to see also where the governor finds the exit strategy. When you dig in and say, I will not do the millionaire's tax, there's no parsing of that.
Right.
There's no way that you can say, well, when I said I wouldn't, what I meant was, right. I might. It's just difficult.
Painting himself into a corner.
Yeah,
kind of.
Yeah. Don't you think it's difficult to say? I'm going to do something now that you are not ready for.
Now I'm nervous.
I actually have to tell the viewers, and actually, you guys know, so we're all in on it, that Caitlin, it's a very sad moment for us because Caitlin is leaving. And it's been really great to have you. I want to thank you very much. No crying.
I'm trying.
Okay. And if you would be so kind as to tell us where you're going.
Sure. Going to First Coast News in Jacksonville, Florida. So on to warmer temperatures, but certainly we'll be thinking about you guys a lot. Thank you so much for such a wonderful opportunity. I've had a wonderful experience here, and before I tear up, I'll turn it back to you.
Well, actually, I just want to play something. Caitlin's been with us for a while,
oh, no.
and I've been here. No, there's nothing to embarrass you. I have not been here all that terribly long. I started in April, and you've been here. You've predated me, actually. And one of the most memorable moments, the best thing about you is how quick thinking you are.
Thank you.
And one of the most memorable moments is what I like to call the Sagamore Smackdown.
Ooh,
so I'd like to revisit that. Here we have it. There it is. Yes. It is Mr. Palladino and Mr. Fred Dicker. Yeah, I'm sure everybody remembers that. The backstory on this, folks, is that it was happening while I was live on the anchor desk and getting crazy emails from Caitlin, who was covering a business council event. And she captured this on her cell phone camera because her shooter was not there at the moment. And it was really quick thinking, and it went viral, and it went national. Didn't Anderson Cooper send you an email congratulating you?
Matt Lauer said my name, which was a big moment for me.
Yeah, big moment for you. So anyway, this was a really wonderful example of, really, I think the best thing about you, which is that you're, quick thinking person, and you get right in there. So I want to thank you for everything that you've done.
Thank you, Liz.
And
I appreciate it.
You've been great to work with. So good luck to you, Caitlin.
As have you. I will miss you very much.
Okay. And I want to thank you, Nick Reisman, and also thank you, Michael Hyman, for joining us. And that is our show for the evening. So I hope you have a great weekend. We'll be seeing you back here on Monday. Until then, be well.